Have you ever just looked at one of your plants and wished it could just tell you what it needs? Well, guess what? It can. It turns out they have a secret language, and today we're going to decode it. We are diving deep into the science of plant nutrition so you can finally understand what those yellow leaves and droopy stems are actually trying to say.
You know the feeling, right? You see a leaf turning yellow, a stem starting to sag, and your mind just starts racing. Is it too much water, not enough sun, too little water? Well, more often than not, the answer is written right there on the leaves themselves. And today, that's the mystery we're going to solve.
So to solve this mystery, you've got to think like a plant doctor. And what's the very first rule of any good diagnosis? It's knowing exactly where to look for clues. It's not just what the symptom is, but where on the plant it's showing up. That's the key.
And I really can't stress this enough, the location of the problem is everything. Is it happening on the old, lower leaves, or is it on the fresh, new growth up top? That single piece of information is the most important clue you have. Honestly, it unlocks the entire diagnosis.
Okay, so this brings us to the core of our whole investigation, something called nutrient mobility. Now, I know that sounds a little technical, but it's actually a super simple idea that changes everything. It's all about which nutrients can move around inside the plant and which ones get locked in place. Understanding this one concept, well, that's the key to getting the diagnosis right every single time.
All right, check this out.
This slide is basically your secret decoder ring for plant health. It's this simple. If you see symptoms on the old, lower leaves, you're dealing with a mobile nutrient problem. See, the plant is smart. It's actually pulling nutrients like nitrogen out of its old leaves to send them to the new growth. But if the problem is on the new upper leaves, that means it's an immobile nutrient like calcium. That nutrient is stuck in the old leaves, so the new growth is the first to suffer.
So let's make this super practical. See how this works? You walk up to your plant and see the oldest leaves at the very bottom are turning yellow. Boom, your number one suspect is a nitrogen shortage. What if those same old leaves have brown, burnt-looking edges? You should immediately think potassium. But if all the new growth at the very top of the plant looks twisted or stunted, that is a classic sign of a calcium issue. And that really specific look, where the young leaves are yellow but the veins are still green, that's your plant screaming that it needs more iron.
So now that we know how to look for the clues, let's meet the actual players. We're talking about the essential nutrient team. These are the elements a plant absolutely, positively cannot live without.
First up, you've got the big three, the ones you see on literally every bag of fertilizer. N, P, K. Think of nitrogen, or N, as the builder. It's what fuels all that green leafy growth. Phosphorus, P, is the energy manager. It's critical for strong roots and big flowers. And potassium, K, is the great regulator. It manages water, keeps everything healthy, and even makes fruits taste better.
Then you have the secondary nutrients. Yeah, they're needed in smaller amounts, but they are just as vital. Calcium is basically the plant skeleton. It builds strong cell walls. Magnesium, get this, is the central atom in every single molecule of chlorophyll. No magnesium, no green, no photosynthesis. And sulfur is a key building block for essential proteins.
Okay, so we know what these nutrients do, but how do they actually get from the dirt into the plant? Well, it's a pretty fascinating journey, a whole silent operation happening right under our feet.
So before a plant can even think about using a nutrient, that nutrient has to get to the root first. And that happens in three main ways. First is diffusion, where nutrients just naturally move from crowded areas in the soil to the less crowded space right by the root. Then there's mass flow, which is like catching a ride on a river. The nutrients just get swept along with the water the plant's drinking. And finally, you have root interception, which is exactly what it sounds like. The root just grows right into the nutrients it needs.
But once those nutrients are at the root, that's when the real magic begins. See, plants don't just passively soak things up. They use a process called active transport. The root literally spends energy to power these tiny protein pumps that go out, grab specific nutrients from the soil, and pull them inside. It's like having a bouncer at the door, only letting the right nutrients in. It's selective, and it takes a ton of energy.
Okay, we've diagnosed the problem, and we understand the science of how plants eat. So now, let's talk about the solution. How do we take all this knowledge and become proactive, giving our plants exactly what they need right when they need it?
So before you add a single drop of anything, you have to do this first. The most important first step is to check and, if you need to, correct your soil pH. Why? Because pH controls absolutely everything.
It acts like a master switch that decides which nutrients are available for the plant to grab and which ones stay locked up in the soil, completely out of reach. Now, if you really want to step up your game, you need to know about a technique the pros use called fertigation. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's fertilizing and irrigating at the same time. By dissolving the nutrients directly into the water, you deliver a perfectly customized meal right to the root zone, with incredible precision and pretty much zero waste. But with this kind of power comes responsibility. Precision is everything. You have to match your nutrient recipe to the plant's stage of life. More nitrogen for leaves, more potassium for fruit. You've got to test your water source so you know what you're starting with. You absolutely have to control the total concentration, or EC, so you don't burn the roots. And this is a big one. You have to prepare your concentrated fertilizers in separate tanks.
And that brings us to a crucial, non-negotiable, absolutely critical rule. This is exactly why the pros use what's called an AB tank system. If you take a concentrated calcium fertilizer and mix it with a concentrated phosphate or sulfate fertilizer, they will instantly react and form a solid. We're basically talking about making a rock. And that rock will clog up your entire irrigation system. So always keep them separate until they're diluted way down in the main irrigation line.
So there you have it. We've learned how to listen to our plants. We've cracked the code of their deficiencies, and we've explored how to respond with real scientific precision. But you know, this knowledge isn't just about growing a better tomato in your backyard. It's a blueprint for efficiency, for conserving our precious resources, and for growing more with less. When we understand this language, we're not just better gardeners, we're taking a real, tangible step toward a more sustainable and food-secure future. So the question is, what will you do with this new language?